discolored and everything awful. Oh, that's going to St. Andrews. That's where they end up. They all do. They end up at St. Andrews. That one might be somebody's steward sale. I don't know for the holidays, but usually they go to St. Andrews. I don't get them. That's a fortune. Ralph doesn't let me take any of that stuff. All right. Now, this is the loin. So what do we find in the loin? We have this bone structure, chine, and then feather bone, just like in the rib, except in the rib we had rib bones coming down. Here, in the middle, we have what? Finger bones. Chine, feather, and then finger in the middle. All right? And then from here back is the hip bone. And there's one rib bone here. That's the 13th rib. And that's it. But before we get to that, let's break it down a little bit and we can assess it and take some parts off of it. Here we have the flank steak. Anyone ever see flank steak before? Work with flank steak?
Yes.
Yeah.
What did you do with it? How was it prepared?
Grilled it.
You grilled it, and then what? Right, a fajita or a slicing steak. Good. It's the original London broil. When we talk about London broil, we're talking about a large steak that's grilled and then sliced. All right? It's got a cover over the top. Whose turn? Your turn. Get ripping.
Rip it and rip it. Good fry steak.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, you're so strong.
All right, now you can use a knife. There it is. There you go. It's beautiful. Translucent. Now I take this down like so and peel out the steak. So out of this giant section, how much of it is flank steak? Not much.
Isn't there only one flank steak per?
Side.
Yeah.
There's 2 of these on the animal. That's it. Flank steak. All right. Identifying features.
Grain.
Obvious grain. Right. And it's got a kind of a north pole and a south pole. You know, it's white up here and white down there. Excuse me.
Does it have a different tenderness as with the skirt steak?
Yeah, it's about the same as skirt steak. It's in that same category of skirt steak, hanger steak, tri-tip, a lot of steaks that will fit in this same basic tenderness. They're not about being extremely tender. They're about being flavorful and relatively inexpensive. You know? So, it's a good cut for a lot of uses. That one's going to be good. That's dry aged a little. Next, I'm going to take off this big chunk of fat. There's a little bit of meat on the outside of this. And a little bit of meat that runs in along the bottom. We can put that on that pile for, well, let's take this part out. Hold on. That's good enough for trim for today. And that you can put on the thing for tomorrow. And this is all fat.
Delicious.
14 pounds of fat, almost 15 pounds of fat.
14.
And guess what? This is all fat too. This is called the lumbar fat or kidney fat. I don't know why they call it that. Maybe. Because there's a kidney in there. Are you kidding me? All right, beef kidneys. What would you do with them? Steak and kidney pie. Oh, English. It's good stuff.
Oh, those English.
Huh?
Oh, those English.
What would you could slice it, saute it. Beef kidneys are a little bit rough. They're a little bit strong. Yeah, they're going to be very high in iron. If you're anemic, eat that. You'll be cured.
You'll be cured.
You'll be cured.
Dr. Snow.
Like a ham. Cured. This is all lumbar fat, kidney, pelvic, heart fat, KPH. If I was going to yield grade this beast, it would be a 5. Seriously. It's got some serious fat on it that I haven't seen on anything in a long time. I'm going to call up Mike. I'm going to call up Mike Myler and say, what are you doing to me? Do you want to end our relationship? Is that what it's all about? Because the school is going to say, we can't afford to do this anymore. And I'm going to say, Myler. He loves sending me stuff like this stuff. Because he knows that I'll be impressed by it and I'll talk about it all day.
That's all fat.
God. That's all kidney fat.
How much does that weigh?
23
17.
17.
Scale you 17 pounds.
Oh my, you know.
17 and 14 is
31.
31, 32. Because that one was 17, I mean 14.4. And we got a little more here. Let's see, this costs us $2.95 a pound.
That was already 35.
So how much is that? For a sit,
105.
yeah, over $100 just thrown out just now.
And how much money does that company give you per pound of fat?
Oh, not enough to recoup that at all. Like 2 cents. No, they don't give you any money back. The only way you could recoup your money on that fat is to use it in your fryer. As what? Tallow. Render it down, put it in the fryer, and call it steak frites.
Literally.
It'd be good stuff. All right, so let's talk about structure now. Let's talk about the cuts that are in here. These are big money cuts. Now that we've cleared the runway, getting some of this fat. I never even see fat in there. That's crazy.
Looks like snow.
What?
Me dream.
The cardboard is working. All right. Now in here we see what? What cut sits in there?
Tenderloin.
That's the tenderloin. If I take this whole thing right now and I cut this here, right through there like that, I'm cutting part of the tenderloin off, am I not?
Yeah.
Yes. But the reason I would cut through there is to make this the short loin. Why would you buy a short loin?
To make it
Right, this is cut off so that from here to here you can make your porterhouse, then your T-bone, and then a few strip loin steaks off the end. So porterhouse, T-bone, shell steak, or strip loin steak off the end. All right. The only reason you buy a short loin is to make those cuts. You've already destroyed part of the tenderloin by making it. You know what I mean? You chop the tenderloin in half. The only reason you would use it is to make those steaks. Porterhouse. Now, what's the difference between a porterhouse and a T-bone? The size of the tenderloin eye. The porterhouse has a big tenderloin eye. The T-bone, more modest. And then towards the end, there's not enough tenderloin to make that a T-bone even. So that would be like a shell steak or a club steak or strip loin steak.
Where do you get the bone-in fillet?
The bone-in fillet would be if you boned out the strip loin, right, and left the bone intact on the fillet, and then cut it from there.
How many can you get out of one?
Only like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 maybe. That's why that's such an expensive cut. Yeah. Usually they would only take a chunk like that, so they're unable to make the porterhouse. They could still make T-bones out of the rest because that's the smaller side, but they would have to specialty cut that section and make a bone-in
I
fillet.
ordered one, and one guy said that you can only get one out of every piece.
Yeah, it's an expensive item. It's an expensive. You're only getting about 4, really, 4 or 5. You get more than one. It's an expensive item. So,
What's the most valuable part?
tenderloin.
This, right here.
Are you kidding me?
These are good points now. Plus all day.
Trying to go top?
No. Are you kidding me?
That's 3.
All right. So, do you understand what a short loin is? It's the whole loin cut shorter. Short loin. The purpose of the short loin.
Porterhouse, T-bone, and strip.
Porterhouse, T-bone, and well, strip loin steaks I can get from the whole thing once I'm done taking the tenderloin.
Shell.
So, porterhouse and T-bone. Porterhouse and T-bone. That's the main events there. All right. Why would I cut it? Porterhouse and T-bone. All right. What kind of restaurant's going to buy a short loin?
High-end steakhouse?
Yeah, a high-end steakhouse, typically. Yeah. A steakhouse that has the wherewithal to cut it themselves. All right. Not every place has that. So you.
Would you use the bandsaw?
Yeah, you'd need a bandsaw. You would not hand cut this. No.
Because
No.
it would tear up the meat, right?
That and it's just plain stupidly long. I've done it. You know, the saw's clean. We need a porterhouse. Oh. And then I put it on a plate, a little parsley. I bring it out to the guy. How's that? Oh, you got one a little bigger? And I just, you know, just stick some fat underneath it, make it prop it up a little more, and bring it back out. No, I didn't do that. And then he'd be like, "Yeah, I'll take both of them." All right. That's a butcher's joke in a way. There's actually a butcher's joke that doesn't. Porterhouse, T-bone, shell steak or club steak. Got it? Good. Now we're going to take the tenderloin out, whole. All right? First, we're going to remove this. All right? First, we're going to remove this. This is the sirloin flap. That's the sirloin flap. The sirloin flap is similar to skirt steak, a little bit like hanger steak. Bottom sirloin pieces like this are inexpensive. It does well as a marinade and grill. If you can find the higher quality grades of it, it works pretty good. If it's a lower quality grade, it's more of a grind or braise item, unless you tenderize the heck out of it. You know, I like to marinate it. A little olive oil, lime juice, cilantro, shot of tequila on it, some garlic, salt, pepper, Let it sit in that for 6 to 8 hours, and then throw it on the grill. Oof, big flame. Crisp the heck out of it, and then slice it across the grain on a bias. Wrap it up in a fajita. Yum. You know, it's nice. Flap steak. Sirloin flap. Also known as the Tarzan steak. It's a joke, people. You figured it. All right, now we're going to take out the tenderloin. I'm going to start from the hip bone and work to the tail of the tenderloin. I'm going to work my knife in along here. There it goes. There's a natural seam by the head of the tenderloin. Scoop that out. And then I work my knife in along the chine bone. In and out of the chine. Just feeling my way along. There's like little bumps in there. And straight down.
Is that where the chain comes from? Why would you keep that?
The chain runs along the top,
Right.
and the chain can be used for,
Right.
yeah, you can grind, but you can also clean it up a bit and use it for a steak item. But it's not going to be part of the tenderloin. Yeah, it's a waste. So. There we go. That's the tenderloin. And the tenderloin is purchased as a full, which would have all the fat on, all right? That's the old, that's like a dinosaur cut. You know what I mean? Like, they just don't make that one anymore. Then they have the tenderloin Pismo. Let's find it in here. The tenderloin Pismo is, oh, there's skirt steak. There's a hanger steak. And there's our old pal Round. Look at him all happy. Here's our tenderloin full. Alright? So you're not going to see that anymore, the 189. You're going to see the 189A. The 189A says a beef loin, tenderloin full, side muscle on. The term side muscle on is what everybody goes by. They use the term peeled side muscle on. That's called Pismo. That's a term that everybody uses in the industry. When I call the purveyor, I can just say, how much are Pismos? And they know exactly what I'm talking about. Alright? They know that it's a tenderloin that's been defatted, but not completely cleaned. If you've cleaned tenderloins before, you've cleaned Pismos. That's what's out there. Alright? How's everybody doing, alright? Hanging in there? Kind of warm in here. It's alright, it's cold outside. So, typical tenderloin, what's it weigh?
9.
I always say 5 to 7, and this one's on the high side.
9 pounds 4
5,
ounces.
7.5. No, I would have charged you 7.5. It's 7 on the nose. So 7. That's, like I said, on the high side. 5 to 7. That's about as big as I want them. All right. The biggest one I've seen here was like 10.5 pounds. What? Giant, this big around. And at the time we were making 3-ounce medallions. How would you do? They literally were that thick. So we didn't do it. What did we do?
Big medallions.
No, we split it in half, rounded off the edges, and made little stupid half-moony ones, which didn't look that great. Well, we had to make something work, right? So what would you do if it was you in your restaurant?
Tie it.
Tie it back, maybe?
So bigger.
Would you send them back?
To cut a 3, to get 3 ounces?
3-ounce portion.
Order another one, keep that one.
That's right. Order a different one. Send that one back if you can. Complain. And tell the purveyor exactly why you need the smaller one, and they'll usually be accommodating, at least for a couple weeks. Purveyors, you constantly have to keep reminding of what your specs are, because they forget. They're forgetful people. They're butchers. All right, here you go. Pismo. You understand that? Pismo tenderloin.
On here.
On there, on that one. There you go.
How much would that cost?
Now I need that. Now I need that saw. Huh? How much would that cost?
Yeah.
I don't know prime prices right now. It's crazy expensive. I know tenderloins that we were buying were select, and they were about $8 a pound, $8.50. So that's select. You can imagine prime is probably $12 a pound. Prime is really expensive. Only what percentage of beef makes it as prime? 3%. So they can get what they want to get. You know. Now I'm going to cut this off, and I'm going to make this the strip loin, this the sirloin. Cut through like that, and then I'll bust it with the saw. This up a bit. There we go. So that's the sirloin right here. And this is what? That's the strip line. Alright. Let's push this up to the side. Let's go back a couple pages. Now, when we buy strip loin, there's a short loin, there's a strip loin bone in. They're sold typically with trim specs. And the typical 3 trim specs in the purveyor's world today are 2x3s, 1x1s, and 0x1s. A 2x3 refers to the measurement from the end of the eye muscle here, measuring out 3 inches, 1, 2, 3, and then from the other side, measuring out 1, 2. All right, that would be a 2x3. A 0x1 would measure 0 on this end to 1 inch on this side, and a 1x1 would be 1 and 1. All right? Thank you. So, which one would be the most expensive per pound?
What's
Zero.
0 by 1?
0 by 1. Why? 0
more
by 1 is
trimmed.
the most trimmed, right?
Isn't that the New York strip line?
It's all New York. We're not in Connecticut. It's right over here. But you're right. Yes, that would become the New York strip. Exactly. Of course, I'm going to say something ridiculous. So I'm going to make a 2 by 3 out of this. Why?
It's cheap.
Why do I want all that fat on there?
So you can sell it. And you get-
Nah, but pretend money isn't the issue. There's another reason.
Cook it.
No, I'm not going to cook that fat.
Protection.
What am I going to do with this?
Cut it.
I'm not going to do anything with it for over 3 weeks.
Dry age.
I'm
You
going
want
to dry age it.
shrinkage.
Exactly. So I leave that on there to protect. All right? If I'm dry aging, I'm buying pieces that have more fat for protection. All right? So I'm going to make a 2 by 3 out of this thing. This one has the one rib bone. That rib bone is what? The 13th rib. Right. Jeez. Now I'll cut it with the saw. All right. Now, a typical 2 by 3 would have this removed. I'm awfully tired of sawing today, so let's chop it off.
Ooh.
Oh, wait. Oh, you're being serious.
What's the problem with using a cleaver?
It's
Shrapnel?
It's, yeah, stuff flying all over into people's salads.
Like you couldn't do this in front of.
You would not do this normally, right? But realize the cleaver, a meat cleaver, is a nice heavy implement that you can do a lot of interesting things with, and make some nice, cool rustic cuts. You know, it's a nice addition. If I'm chopping in a kitchen, typically I would do it on here. You will use this. I won't do it anymore. That's enough. But I'll take that off tomorrow. But you understand what it's going to look like when that's removed. That edge will be smooth, so it'll look like this. All right? But the chine isn't broken all the way through. So it requires you to be able to bone down and then out that, which is very difficult boning. If I'm going to dry age this, typically I would cut it with the bone. I like a bone-in strip line steak for a dry age steak. I think it just looks nice. I think it stays a little more moist. That bone adds a little more character to it. And it looks bigger on the plate. Bone-in strip line.
You would
All
leave
right.
the china on for the.
No, I'd take that off. That comes off. I'm just tired of chopping and cutting. Ugh. All right, another trick that the purveyor will do on an item like this will be to bevel the edge. What does beveling the edge do? Makes it look like there's less fat on there. All right? It's a deception.
And they'll sell it for more.
Yeah, we see this on our racks of lamb all the time. Right? What are you talking about? There's only half inch of fat. All right? So beware of that. So this is a 2 by 3 bone in, which is not going to be extremely expensive because of all the waste that's involved on here. The other item that you would typically buy in a restaurant would be a boneless, and that comes like this. Let me show you. Oh, this can go on that. You can put that on the tray with all the other stuff for tomorrow. Yeah, you need another tray.